Hello and welcome back. And as you can see, we no longer have Kashka and Master Swan. We have Middlecott and Oak. Hope you guys are doing good today. Hope you guys are enjoying the LJL so far. But we're kicking it off with DFM versus AXIZ. And I'm not going to lie, I read your guys' progress notes, or not progress notes, but your like scouting notes on this game.
Yeah.
And some interesting takes, some interesting takes on that one. But I'll let you all get into it. I'll welcome you guys into the stream. And yeah, how are you feeling about this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, great to be here. Back on the LJL once again, surrounded by such talented people as yourself and Master Swan doing production. No, I'm looking forward to this game, Jerry. Obviously, yeah, DFM lost last time out. Maybe there are a couple of angles for AXIZ to actually attack this matchup. We know that Toltu's not been playing great in the top lane, but if he can pop off on a carry, maybe that's something that they can look to do.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that obviously we can't ignore the DFM lost. We were talking about this. I don't know if we said it live or if we talked about it after the cast, but it was like, when do we expect DFM to lose? When were we thinking they finally lose their unbeaten streak? We were thinking about maybe 14. Apparently that was a big number for them, but they lost it at 10. They lost to Russell Jessers. Is this maybe a downward slope for them? Do they maybe just spiral out of control and AXIZ pick up a sneaky win here?
My bets are on no. I think they're just going to keep going. Like, we've only seen Rascal Jester on an upswing, to be honest, as well with obviously SoftBank, which we get to cover in game 4. But I don't think DFM are going to take this one personally. I'm pretty sure they're keeping this right, especially because their matchup is against AXIZ, who are lower on the ladder at the moment. And whilst they're still within that kind of echelon of I'm still in playoffs and I'm probably going to remain in playoffs. They're different teams. And I think specifically, it's only if Toltu manages to unlock something inside of him and the rest of the team as well, where they manage to communicate effectively and play around this more carry-orientated top side, that maybe they could emulate some success that we saw in the Rascal Jesters MU. Yeah,
and I guess I want to talk about top lane, right? Because it's an important one to look at. Obviously, we've seen that AXIZ have switched it up a bit, They've gone for the new top laner over the old. So Yellow Yoshi out, Toltu in. Is that going to be enough of a swap to maybe challenge Evie, which is obviously kind of historically one of the best in the league, if not the best?
Yeah. Well, Joe, Oak's reaction there probably tells a lot more of the story than I really could. Toltu is a good player. Like, I saw him in Academy. He was decent, but he's looked off the pace so far. And Ebby is someone that will just run you down. These ranged top lane picks that he goes for, the Akshan and the Draven, yeah, they can be quite lane dominant, but Ebby is happy to play stuff like the Camille, like the Gwen, like the Tryndamere, that may have a couple of problems early on, but have all of these dashes, have all of these target access, so that even if Toltu goes even in lane, which I think is the maximum sort of expectation for him, as we get later into the game on the side lane, I think it becomes even harder for him to play it out.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one. And we can look to the other side of the rift. Obviously, Sangchu, Dicey, they've had a pretty decent season. I feel like Sangchu's kind of been carrying a lot of AXIZ's wins. Do they maybe have a chance against Utapon and Harp, which I feel like have been not necessarily overlooked, but in terms of the relative team, they're not necessarily the people that people pick up and be like, yeah, they're definitely going to be the ones winning it.
Yeah, I think this is probably where the most space is for these players, right? Because Utapon and Harp, you're right, they're not the real focus for this team. But that's not a slight. That's just the play style of the team. Like, Utapon and Harp are well versed in playing slow, methodically, control of wave state, and playing like as basically to bleed as minimally as possible. And in turn, this has allowed not only Harp to play the map a lot, but also even if they are looking for two, I mean, we've seen it against weaker teams. They've just found 2v2s anyway. So whilst they're not the so-called early game threats, that's done nothing to take away from them. And I think, it really is more on Sangchu and Dicey to get Swamp in their lane, or to really find within draft a way to facilitate themselves to find early leads, because otherwise Utapon and Harp are not going to get that space away.
Yeah, I think Utapon and Harp, they're just so flexible as a duo. And I think this is the thing that is really going to make this game difficult for AXIZ, is that even if Sanctuary and Dicey want to play aggressive in the lane, try and get advantages by themselves, Utapon and Harp are going to be more than equal to that. And do you know what? Even if you're pulling Swamp down, unless it's a perfect scenario, I'm sure that sort of the veteran AD carry on DFM and this guy coming over from Korea, Harp, that has looked so good, can find a way to play it out and even turn around those scenarios.
Well, we'll have to see which teams fans are going to be playing the Amumu, the sad mummy look. And talking about mummy, to quote Mars Swan, Renata, are we going to see it in this game? We've talked about bot lane. Is this the vibe? I'll start with you, Oak. Do you think maybe we get to see it finally?
Okay, so, I mean, everybody's been talking about the hilly game on it, right? But I think this champion, we're seeing maybe where it could be played in larger roles. And it's got some really high power points, very specifically around objective control, around comps that want to walk in. It's also a fantastic counter pick into double and triple AD comps, right? So I don't know if we'll see it. I mean, some people are saying like, oh, just blind the champion. It's that good. It's that good. There's a lot of talk around it being just overpowered in its current state. I think that's risky. I think if we see the angle where early AD picks a thing, I think, for example, it's really good into Camille. I don't know if you guys know that. Fucking disgusting. If we see the opportunity for it to be picked into Camille or stuff like this at like early double AD comps, maybe then we see it. And I think, especially for Harp, he seemingly has the ocean at the moment to pick from. This could very well be something that they're also able to pull out of the back pocket.
I mean, Oak, you're talking about double AD comps. We've only seen double AD comps from...
Was I pointing to something there? I don't know if I was insinuating anything.
I think you may have been. I think there might have been something else that you were alluding to there, Oak.
Well, we'll have to see him pick a ban. But let's get back into a couple more of the the players per se. Looking at the jungle mid matchup, obviously a very, very important matchup into this game. And I will say Steel has been popping off. You know, he's been stealing. Yeah. He's living up to his name because he's stealing a lot of Barons. And I will say, do you think Swamp Megamin can maybe hold it together for AXIZ? Because I feel like Megamin has been a big focus of their wins.
And I don't know how you feel about this, okay? I think we may have differing opinions here. I actually quite like Megamin. I'm generally a big fan of players that are able to recognize their role within a team and to just play safe and to just not bleed. That's what Megamin was doing last year. That's kind of what he's been doing this year. I think it's more on Swamp, though, because he has been the more inconsistent of the two for AXIZ. If he shows up and Megamin is having a good day as well, I think they probably can match up against Steel and Yaharong, but that is requiring AXIZ to overperform and severe underperformance from that duo from DFM for it to be an even matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing for me, is that Steel and Yaharong are the strongest mid lane jungle duo, dare I say. Yeah. They have looked so consistent with each other, their play together. I mean, we saw specifically the one time that Steel decided to opt away from the Poppy, that Nidalee Renekton game was bonkers. I'm so blessed that I got to cast that game, my God. But that's the thing. Steel's just probably going to pick Poppy again because he doesn't really feel contested against anybody at the moment. And I think we can all kind of see that and understand that positioning, because he doesn't really feel the need to pull out anything extra. And I think combine that with Yaharong, who is very, very consistent, this 2v2 duo lane is a very scary threat. And whilst you may like Megamin, yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Well, we'll have to see in draft, which we are getting underway right now. So middle court, Oak, take it away and have a good game.
Let us get this going. Very excited to be here alongside you, casting this champion select. DFM 10-1 after losing to Rascal Jester last time out. I'm sure they're not going to want a repeat of that. AXIZ trying to pick up what would be a very big upset win against the league leaders. DFM kind of splitting their focus in terms of the bans. That Zeri move, Sanctuaries look good on that one. Akshan taken away from Toltu in the top. AXIZ more focused on these Enchanter supports, and it is going to be the Hecarim first pick for Steel.
Yeah, I mean, a really easy blind to be opting into this Hecarim. I like, just to pull back on the bans a little bit, because I actually really like this from AXIZ, this double support targeting. This is, so Harp obviously Ocean at the moment, but he's had 2 picks on the Yuumi, 2 picks on the Karma. This really kind of identifies that maybe they're trying to lean DFM more towards an engage style or a tank style support, like the Leona, like possibly the Thresh. And I think this early Nautilus, yeah, you're seeing, maybe they're trying to look for these 2v2 fights as much as possible.
Yeah, and you can pair this up with... Generally, I think we've seen the Aphelios as the pairing alongside the Nautilus. It just means that you've got a little bit more of that CC, a little bit more of that lockdown. And Sanchi, he's played 4 games on the Aphelios this season. It hasn't looked amazing from him, but I think that's more of a statement on how AXIZ have been doing as a team in general. But we are getting something different, Oak. Silas locked in for AXIZ.
I would love to be positive right now, but I am questioning this just a little bit. I mean, stealing away the Hecarim multi is obviously going to be very nice for him. It's a very, very high impact teamfight ultimate. But when you pick the Silas blind here, you leave open the opportunity to not only get counter picks within lane, but also you can comp counter pick. You can pick champions that have a lot of agency in their spell rotations. For example, DFM can now very easily slot in a Jace here and take away one of those key ultimates whilst picking a safe top lane blind. And yeah, so it's I think maybe AXIZ are trying to read into what DFM's comp are doing early, and we'll see how well it works out. Counterpick point, obviously, we see this exchange of ADs a lot. DFM opts into the Jinx now. Utapon already played both of these ADs, the Aphelios and the Jinx, quite a lot, and they're happy to take it away now because they've been loving to pair it up with these utility mages. And oh well, I thought we were going to see it, but we instead see the early sets, which split play right now. Some people have been opting back into the top lane, but I think we've seen a little bit of set support. So.
We've seen a little bit of set support. I will just say that every set is a little bit legendary within the wider LJL, just bullying people on that pick in the early game, standing between them and the minion wave, saying, if you want a CS, if you want to get this experience, you're going to have to go through me. And against Toltu, who's not looked like the strongest top laner in the league, that may prove to be an effective strategy. AXIZ, though, opting into, like you were talking about, the other side of that AD carry trade with the Aphelios locked in. And now, AD carries to both sides, and a little bit funky either way. Where do you think the focus is for these teams?
Oh, that's a very hard question to ask when you see these drafts.
No, I'll take it back then. I'll take it back then. No, I didn't ask it. We'll just like chrono break that. We'll go for a different point here. AXIZ banning out the second top laner in this Gwen. Obviously can still go into the jungle, but with that Hecarim as well, I think they think that this set is being flexed around the place as well.
Yeah, maybe it's just the Gwen is because remember, Gwen is so dominant at the moment. People love to pick this, so they may just want to get rid of the Gwen just in case for that flex, as you mentioned. It could be that the set's very much heading towards the top lane anyway for DFM, but last minute they can go, well, actually, we can put the set symbol here and pick up the Gwen. So I don't mind it. The Viego taken away from Swamp, one of its more played champions this season, alongside that Zinzao. So now that they picked up this Hecarim because jungle didn't come in with the early rotation, remember this Silas came in pretty early. Instead, they get to ban away a jungle pick and maybe a third one as well here.
I mean, you could too. Jungle's been one of these roles that's had a lot of high priority picks. Lee could be a good takeaway here, but what I'm kind of more interested in is how DFM are going to deal with this Silas in the draft, as it is the Jarvan taken off the board, another one of these early game junglers. I
mean, I think the set blind is actually quite nice into, because if the Silas is flexed into that top lane, Set does a fantastic job of dealing with him early, and whilst the Showmaker or the Showstopper is a pretty good ultimate to be taking away, I think Set just does a fantastic job of shutting down the champion early. On top of that, Yaharong is very eager to play some of these bruises. We've already seen the Renekton, and we used to see quite a lot of Set mid as well. This could potentially be something we see if Megamin does opt into that Silas. And then... Okay, that's a Sejuani. This champion, I think, is... I mean, when you look at where it slots in here, this gives them a lot of engager options. I think Sejuani, one of the more underrated tanks at the moment, whilst tanks are seeing a lot of play, I mean, it's such an easy go button for this squad.
Absolutely.
I honestly don't know too much about this matchup though. So in my eyes, I'm looking at whether or not Swamp is going to be able to guide this champion through the first 6 levels. They're able to, whether AXIZ are able to minimize losses in their lanes within the early part of the game and look towards 3rd and 4th Drake to potentially come into this mid game with a very easy teamfight comp. And oh my god, what a comp from DFM.
So right, I'm just gonna say, I'm assuming this is Darius top, right? Like, I could be a little bit of a himbo play-by-play, but Darius support is not something that you should be seeing at an elo higher than silver, right?
Okay, so in my eyes, Darius top is the set support as we first saw it as, and then that Vex in the mid lane to try and shut down this Silas in the mid lane, and then the counter pick comes in. Okay,
Okay.
Woo. This is going to be a matchup to see. So
Okay.
we'll get more into the specifics of each lane dynamic. I think when we're looking at larger comps, though, we're seeing DFM opting for a very skirmish-heavy comp. They also have some quite easy early fight tools, but when you counter that against not only this Fiora, which is going to be pulling away this Darius constantly in side lane, I don't know whether Ebby's actually going to be able to deal with the Fiora. We will have to see in terms of how hard he gets to bully that matchup early. And then you look at, I mean, Megamin has a plethora of ultimates to use to counter engage. I think the choice to opt into it early to get into that Hecarim ulti, I think, is fine. And then now, well, hey, guess what? You've also got this Vex ulti as well, and as well as depth charge, which is probably one of the best Sylas ultimates you can get.
They've given him some. He's got some pretty good ultimates.
He's got some pretty good ultimates.
The showstopper for me is the big one, like just yeeting someone back into their team. But AXIZ once again have been a little bit spicy in the draft. This is something that we've seen from them numerous times sort of over the course of this split. And Sejuani, Fiora, Sylas, these are picks that I feel like are kind of at the edge of the meta, but haven't really firmly established themselves as a concrete part of it.
I know a lot of people think that Fiora should be in meta at the moment, just because of the way she functions against a lot of these top lane champions. People think that she can slot in fairly easily. Obviously, you have to play the nuance of playing with a permanently split pushing champion. But when you combine that with, I think, wow, I am actually really excited for this AXIZ draft. I think they've managed to navigate draft really well. I'm surprised the Sylas got away with this, to be honest. But DFM having said what they've opted into is okay, well, you want to fight first, we also can do the same thing, and we also have a Jinx as backup for that. Now you have to remember here, even 2-item Jinx, once she gets excited of that first kill, so much raw DPS, she's a fantastic champion to opt into with some of these tanks because of the opportunity to go Lord Dom's third instead of that IE and still pump out an insane amount of damage. Oh, okay, well,
are you ready?
I don't need to think about it for too much longer because the game's finally started. We've seen a ward come in immediately around just to safety guard the Sejuani. We talked about the Sejuani wanting to remain relatively safe within this early game, and I think especially with the Sylas and the Fiora, really, they are trying to minimize losses as much as possible within the first 6 levels.
I think that to a certain extent, Steel wants to do something similar. Hecarim, whilst he has been a strong jungler in the meta that has been a lot about early ganking junglers, much more focused on farming to that level 6, getting that onslaught of shadows unlocked, and then being a menace when it comes to ganking and the skirmishes. Yahrong with better bit of early trading onto the Sylas. He can struggle a little bit in these ranged matchups, so we'll have to make sure that Megamin is piloting that one fine. Ebby, just doing what he likes to do, lane bullying up in the top side.
So the reason why Darius players don't like this matchup is Harp flashes forward immediately. Now it's Hex Flash.
Okay.
So you have the opportunity to Hex Flash now. I've seen players do a lot worse with that summoner spell to get Hex Flash up. So it's a choice that he's made.
I'm doing this deliberately.
He's opted in to the Hex Flash instead. So I don't know about that one, but yeah, not a big deal. But the reason why this Darius matchup can be so awkward is because if you're reads, you're apprehend, or alternatively, even if she just regularly trades with you, so long as she dashes forward when that Q comes out, the big AoE, she can either parry the damage as we see there, or she can dash inside of the ring and avoid the bonus damage, the healing, and stop the stack from going on her. Basically, if Darius can't get his passive stacked up on the Fiora before she's in a position to look for kill threat, it can be very, very difficult, and you can find yourself 0-2 very, very quickly.
And the crazy thing for me as well is it's an ignite on Toltu. Once again, he's opting into a very, very lane-focused style. I don't think we've actually seen him run the teleport so far in the LJL. And I know it's 3 minutes, 15 seconds into the game, but he's looking pretty decent up against Ebby. Still going for a little bit of a funky invade hit onto Swamp. Sejuani, a champion that, does suffer in these early levels, doesn't clear particularly quickly, and can fall fairly low on HP. And with the priority that DFM have got in the bot side as well, Utapon and Harp are starting to rotate over.
I think the beauty of this is you have Harp here to rotate through your comp because you have the Swave Shove in the boss side, and your Horong should have built up a little bit of a lead against this melee-only mid laner early. So we're going to see a skirmish up. Hex Flash is big.
He's going for it. Dicey's going to get called out, forced to flash back as he's actually going to hook back in as well. Mega Man and Yaharong 1v1ing on the other side of the fight as the DFM mid laner is going to jump in and gets a two-person fear. That's a reset for Utapod as well, but he's not going to be able to find the target access, actually. Harp forced through the Tribush, forced down, and now DFM have to be careful with their pathing. Mega Man actually opting back in once again, but that is a 1v4 that you're forced to flash away from. Utapod still gets the hit down with the rocket, and now he's after Sanchu. A double kill for Utapod. The Zap connects, but the Sejuani cannot be slowed. DFM get a perfect start.
And yeah, Steel, on top of that, it looks like even though Steel doesn't get the camp, as mentioned, perfect start. Jinx gets 2 kills there. Fantastic opportunity for this early game as Ignite comes out, Ghost as well.
Yeah, this is actually being opted into by both players. Toltu's trying to get the solo kill. He flashes forward, but Ebby shows him who's the king of top lane.
Oh, he got the 5 stack early enough there to get that bonus AD coming in on top of the bleed, and the flash really just to stop that single auto attack is enough to find the kill. And we're going to get the replay coming in, and you see Harp, very aggressive Hex Splash, and there's a lot of back and forth here. The eyes are on Utapon for this fight because he is just standing here and auto attacking the entire time. Yaharon gets the blast plant over for the flash double fear to really start this, and then at this point Utapon is just pumping out really big damage in this fight. Swamp's already chunked, and even though they try and make the return play, it's just not knowing the amount of damage you have with your comp. So they're constant over aggress for 1 second. You get the flash, but you're just not in time to get that retreat, and Utapon really just taking advantage of AXIZ not really being in the correct mindset for this early game.
And then we saw this extended fight in the top side. Toltu ends up being a level down, I think, at the end of this play. I mean, it starts off well that Evie just knows how much damage he's got, gets the auto reset, flashes away. Toltu flashes back, but not quite in time to secure the kill. That would have been a big play for AXIZ, but ultimately it just ends up putting them further behind.
And a really good pickup from Ebby to just immediately opt into Tabai. The way you can really play around some of these earlier, riskier matchups is just to opt into HP and tankiness. Is
oh no, the diving bot again. Summoner spells burnt in the last play, and DFM are going to take full advantage. Already 2 kills as Harp tanks that one up and could walk it out. Still going to be fine as well. Do they look for the re-engage? Yaharong starts to tank, and Utapon gets the kill. DFM, they lost last time around, and they don't want to do it now.
Crushing for AXIZ's bot side. We talked about Sanctuary being the big carry threat from this team. This is the player that's been popping off so many times to find AXIZ their few wins. And I think DFM have identified that and tried to deal with it as resolutely as possible. And we see it here. Now, I love this. So Harp is the first one to go in. He uses the majority of his HP to burn through some of those turrets. He uses a W to dodge that remaining. Then Steel is tanking for the second kill. Yaharong with the most HP comes in to tank this final couple of turret shots to secure that triple for Utapon. And Utapon is now 4-0. Forge gold bounty at 7 minutes and has already picked up the majority of items for his mythic there. Yeah, Jinx is still with it.
It's pretty good, and that level of coordination is something that surprised us at the start of the split with this DFM, but it doesn't surprise us anymore. Like, they've probably been the most coordinated team in the entirety of the LJL. Saying that, though, Ebby will apprehend Toltu, who gets the riposte and actually uses the Grand Challenge as well. Knocks in Guilting, goes down early, but Ebby's just stood next to the wall. Toltu's not going to get in range to kill him, and the bleed is coming through, and it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. Well played, Ebby.
What a classic. This is how you play into the Furor. I think it's, Ebby's really lucky there to get that return kill onto Toltu. I think Toltu just aggressing a little bit too much because he knew that Swamp, as soon as Ebby gets those 5 stacks from Swamp, it's a ticking timer before he can ulti Swamp and then play for that 1v2. So he has to opt in for that kill trait there. Ebby did a classic Fiora trick. He just hugs the wall, and then Fiora can't get the last vital proc to proc the ultimate and get that healing going. And Steel and Yaharong, they're walking in.
Oh no, Swamp has his AirPods in. Does Arctic himself away and is forced to flash too. So could have gone a lot worse, but the Sejuani bullied in the bot side with those invades from DFM, bullied in the top side with this invade. Ultimately, only sat at a single kill participation, which is really not great, and Steel still able to walk it away. It's actually multiple members of DFM rotating up for this Herald.
And this is how you want to play with a set. He needs to be on map as much as possible, utilizing the early game.
Utapon,
it's big
feared, hooked, taken out. Sloppy positioning from the DFM AD carry, and AXIZ punish appropriately.
Twice today, we've seen that now from a Jinx, just not respecting the correct pathing that you need to be doing on this champion. Remember that Gale Force has yet to be picked up, so very quick from Megamin to pick up a return kill, and a huge bounty picked up as well, which means that they've collected a nice tidy sum. And whilst DFM have still got that Shelly, I should say, Sanctu in the meantime picked up 2 places on the bot side, so small gains coming from actually a really poor early game from AXIZ.
It's an interesting setup, though, because you can make the argument that maybe they got the kill onto Utapon because of that Herald play, and then a couple of plates for Sanctu in the bot lane. That's already, what, 700 golders? Hold that thought. Ebby apprehends Toltu, who crippled up, can't walk away. The passive is ticking down on him. Will throw up that riposte and is able to get one more dash away. But we're already seeing Ebby doing this bullying. Toltu still actually fairly decent in terms of CS, but in terms of pressure, he's got no chance at the moment.
Key itemization from Ebby here is really important. I think I mentioned it briefly, but having as much HP or defensive stats as possible early to get your passive before the Fiora can respond is really, really important. On top of that, he picks up early executioners, because every time Fiora procs one of those passives, he gets some healing alongside with the ultimate and grasp, and that's going to minimize all of that healing.
I love what Ebby's doing here. He's just told you sure you want to CS that wave? Do you think that it's safe? It's not going to be safe in a second, as Steel is making his way towards the top side. That Herald is in pocket as well. Control Wood in the Tribush will spread him out, but I don't think Toltu is going to care, as he's getting apprehended. The Noxian Guillotine and another solo kill for Ebby. It's just too easy.
Yeah, Toltu sees Steel moving up there and knows he has to respond quick enough. Doesn't quite have the damage in time, and Ebby's now 3-1. Really good. Swamp immediately with the response, though, going for the Drake because he knows that Steel is top side. They have the Herald, though, so they may opt to force the first gold turret onto Ebby instead and continue to push through this top lane massacre.
Oh, they're not going to do it, though, actually. Okay, so could have funneled more of those resources into Ebby, but making the decision that that's not where they want the gold.
There's 2 things that they might be looking towards here. Number 1 is getting that Herald gold onto the Jinx instead. I think that's also a fantastic goal. On top of that, keeping the Fiora in lane. As soon as that turret is gone, Ebby has to play so much more. I mean, he has to be playing on the wave constantly, which means that he's going to be shoved in under tier 2 instead, and that gives very easy 3-mans for Megamin and Swamp to look towards. Utapon going to use that Super Mega Death Rocket to stop the reset, and this disrupts reset timers for AXIZ. Now, maybe playing right into Steel's ideals to try and get that Herald down on bot side and look towards this first turret.
What do you think Steel's ideals are?
Stealing jungle camps, using Herald to get first turret in bot lane, playing Hecarim and Poppy. No, sorry, it's Poppy only, isn't it?
Poppy only. Yeah, this is clearly a mistake. Obviously not a Hecarim. There's maybe a little mistake there from Swamp. That armor does mean that he doesn't get slowed down by the glacial augment. Steel, once again, DFM are just forcing in this bot side jungle, really trying to remove as much room as they can from AXIZ, meaning that they can't really contribute to any sort of plays. Harp is lurking around, thinking about flashing over that wall and getting a showstopper down, but DFM will just secure the second charge of the Herald and rotate themselves away.
I'm going to try and fish for one of these ultimates, maybe look for that Onslaught of Shadows again for a potential fight. The only problem with burning this app, it comes out though.
Yeah, Dicey not back, forced to flash away over the wall. Does throw out the depth charge onto Harp. The Nautilus is going to be going down right at the start of the fight, but AXIZ may have an angle that they can play it out. Megamin taken very low by the true damage, as Swamp is going to be the next one to fall. The Ignite will not quite take down the AXIZ mid lane, who's able to dash himself away, but opts back in for no reason at all, and donates Yaharong another kill.
That's 3 for 0. DFM are very happy about that. I mean, you have to remember, Dicey is a big facilitator for some of that, for the early pick opportunities. So getting off the board means that Swamp doesn't actually get the ultimate off at all there, as well as Sanctu. They weren't really able to find a response in time, and it really disrupts AXIZ's whole goals here. And you see it here, they pick up Dicey first, and Swamp and Megamin are there, but Sanctu doesn't really have any opportunity to opt into this fight, because look at where DFM are staggered right now. And so yeah, 2 kills get picked up. Swamp knows not even to burn the ultimate, and Yaharong just gonna walk away there.
Is that me being dumb? I don't know, man. Harp is actually going in, gets a double face breaker onto Sanctu and Dicey, who is forced to hook himself away, but Utapon will continue to chase with the rockets, and the super mega death one will take out the Nautilus for the 4th time this game.
And another kill, and we look at how low mid lane turret is already. And on top of that, we got Herald spawning in 2 minutes. There are many opportunities for DFM to, every time they get a kill, just to increase his vision. You're seeing it yield really well in this top side. As there's a look at the pings and the wards in this top side. They're absolutely trying to choke up this Furor lane as much as possible. And it's right on this timer for Herald as well. Really smart rotations to get as much pressure on this objective and as well as this lane as possible, because Toltu's already bleeding quite heavily. They can bully him even more before he gets in his first item.
Megaman looking for an all-in onto Yahrong here, but because of that blue trinket, was spotted out before he could really land his full combo with that Everfrost picked up. And we're sort of joking a little bit on the desk about, oh, DFM, are they going to drop it? Or can AXIZ take this one? And yeah, I mean, that sort of turret plate gold really just illustrates that this game has not been going in AXIZ's favor at all. And DFM, yeah, they may have lost to Rascal Jester last time out, but it doesn't seem to have really phased them. Drake spawning in a minute's time. This would be soul point for AXIZ, though. They do have the lion's share of the pressure around of this river.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for AXIZ is they picked up these first 2 Drakes, and that was the opposite of what I assumed from this comp. I assumed that because of the set, we'd be seeing the first 2 Drakes on DFM side, and AXIZ would be looking for the respondatory Drakes. But that does give them a nice buffer to know that, you know, Soul isn't going to be coming around till 30 minutes or so if DFM do get the next 4 Drakes. But either way, I think we're going to see DFM just opt towards maybe the Herald first, then look for Drake afterwards, just because the amount. Look at the gold lead, 7k at the moment in the 15-minute games is it's a reasonable amount of gold. As Megamin's over push and they've got the flank, it's very difficult for Megamin to get out of this. We're going to see how he handles it.
He's got a TP, could go for a SOAS play, but there is a lot of lockdown on the DFM members. I don't think he's going to have the chance. Harp, though, fishing for Sanctu, will force the flash out of the AXIZ AD carry as Megamin is still the target, shoved into the tower, feared up, tries to survive, tries to slay some kings, but ultimately he's going to be the one falling down. Dicey doesn't want to go for that. I thought he was going to do the same thing as Harp then. I was really scared for him for a second. Yeah, you don't win that one, buddy.
Yeah, because DFM have all moved towards this bottom mid side, AXIZ are trying to look for this Herald here, but DFM have a very quick response, so I'm assuming that even if Swamp picks this up, the ghost comes out from Ebby, it's the engage.
Yeah, he's starting off 1v2, but he's going to have a couple of friends joining him before this fight is over. Toltu dashing himself and actually able to get himself away. Swamp is not going to be so lucky.
TP.
AXIZ TPing in. Do they want to opt in? It appears that they do. Depth charge goes down onto Ebby. Actually, a lot of damage onto the Darius. And the Moonlight Vigil is not quite enough to take him out, but DFM forced off of that Herald, and AXIZ aren't going to lose that. Meanwhile, though, Yahrong just chilling in bot lane, taking a tower.
Yeah, he opted into this Ignite early, specifically to deal with some of Megamin's potential healing. I mean, you look at the combo as a whole, and they actually have quite a lot of potential healing coming out. So opting to Ignite is no discard, but it means that he's not able to TP into this fight. So whilst DFM, you see this heavy aggression coming out just to stop this Herald from AXIZ, this, you know, objective trade and response. Once they get this single kill, as we see here, fantastic combination of CCs there to come out. Even though Ebby gets stunned up, the amount of raw damage coming from DFM is so high. They get to pick up this one kill. They also burn the TP, reset the Herald, and they get away with their lives. I'm sure they're very happy with this. As, oh, it's so close.
It's so close. AXIZ are probably going to be happy that more of them didn't die. It was a bold TP, but I'm glad that they're still like trying to stand up. They're still trying to contest DFM. They recognize that if they just let this game play out and let DFM play their game plan, then they will just lose. So
yeah, well, it is the ebb and flow of tempo, you know, as we see. As soon as DFM, they burned all that ultimates for that single kill on Swamp. Well, that's your key timer to go, well, actually we still have all our ultimates available, let's try and look for the fight in return. But unfortunately, Megamin didn't land his chains, so no kills picked up. You just got to wait for the next one now. Hopefully DFM will use all their tools on Swamp again, and maybe AXIZ can look for a response. I don't know, something in me is telling me that DFM might not opt into trying to brute force kill this Sejuani in a 5v5. Something is telling me that. I don't know, it's the prophet in me.
Yeah, Oh, that's an expectation that I think is probably gonna be fulfilled, because DFM have been pretty good at finding out target access, and we did say that this was a more skirmish-heavy composition. That this wasn't a composition that necessarily wanted to be
from both sides.
Yeah, for all grouped up all the time. So that means that you've got all these little 2v2s, these 3v3s, these 1v1s happening on either side. And normally, AXIZ would be in a pretty good position to fight them out, but they are 11,000 gold behind at 18 minutes, which makes that task substantially harder, Oak.
Yeah, it is quite hard for them. Now, even through that, there are a couple of things we can look towards, especially within the next, I would say, the next 10 minutes of the game. That's to be fruitful there. Cole, as well as Kraken Slayer, picked up by Sangchu. He's opted into a very damage-heavy build with this Kraken Slayer. And I think when you look at the front line that he has, this Nautilus, who has thankfully opted into Aftershock, no Glacial to be seen here, definitely trying to perform more of the frontline role. And then you also have, I mean, one of the most renowned, tankiest champions in the game, Sidorani here, who, with that armor up, will be breaking very high armor and MR numbers. This gives the opportunity for, if he can find it at least, to free hit. And with the Kraken Slayer, should be melting people, especially on 2 items. That's why I'm going to look towards him. On top of that, CDR boots and the Everfrost picked up by Megaman. He also has a stopwatch. This is a big potential play if he can find the correct ultimate and the proper usage out of it to start to fight well for his team alongside Swamp, and maybe some more cohesive engage to pick up a single member of DFM, because even Steel and Ebby being the tankiest members of the team, they still might have the damage with Toltu is very caught out.
It still just throws up the Herald, just doesn't care. Oh, and he flashes into the Chompers.
Super Mega
He's going to be going down. Oh, that's not what you want to be doing in your first matchup against DFM. Hart with a showstopper into a double knock-up. Dicey survives a little bit longer with that aftershock, but goes back in and feeds another kill to Yaharong.
The Moonlight Vigil missed.
It's an unfortunate set of circumstances for AXIZ, and we talked about them having a load of tanks. We talked about them having this Kraken Slayer on Sangchu, but when you're in an outnumbered fight, I think it's almost impossible to win that one out. DFM won't push for the inhib, but Baron is on the table, and they may choose to go for it.
I've learned a lesson here, as we're going to see. Yeah, Toltu. Oh, this happened earlier with Megamin. You feel like they've learned their lesson as Toltu caught out on top side, no turret to protect him. Instant ulti coming out there to avoid Toltu from parrying it, and then flashes into the Chompers. And whilst the ultimate's already blind, he thinks he's safe. Galeforce comes in and picks it off. Yeah, I should learn my lesson. Middlecourt. Clearly, I should stop doing long monologues about a team having comeback options and then immediately watch them get demolished. Well, this is the lesson I need to learn.
It was quite nice because the comeback options that you were describing are exactly the way that DFM picked off Toltu, changed the next kill, and were able to take those objectives. Infernal Drake spawning in a minute's time. DFM, I feel like they don't really care about this one. If AXIZ get a soul point at this stage of the game, I don't see how they're ever going to be able to really capitalize on it. Toltu now being caught in his own jungle. Throws out the grand challenge, gets hit with a bit of true damage to his face, but he's fine.
He has to use the ultimate. It gives it a little bit of move speed. So that's why he burns the ultimate there, just to get a little bit of move speed to run away from the Darius. But yeah, as you mentioned, that's that burn. It is a short cooldown. Oh no! But it's long enough. It's making him. It's
happening again. It's happening again. Oak. AXIZ solo laners and overextending on the top side of the map. Name a more iconic duo. Megamin will get taken out by Utapod, who is having a stellar game, by the way. 9-1-3 on this Jinx, and maybe that's the pick that DFM need to start up this Baron.
Yeah, Harp's gonna very aggressively position up as they start this Baron, just so that he can scout out, because they don't have any wards on the map. You're seeing a lot of red trinkets come out for this comp. They don't currently have the vision to set up to see what response it is. So Harp's gonna act as a human ward, try and scout out where Swamp is. And we're seeing them start to see, and as mid-turret, the Ghost is out.
Yeah, able to flash himself away, but he is going to be pathing towards DFM eventually. Swamp looking to contest this Baron, actually. We'll get Showstopper, flashes into the pit! But you can't steal from steel, buddy. That's a lesson that they should have taught you long ago.
We go to school for that. I got taught that in high school.
Like
you can't just give me the silence.
I don't know, man. Like, was it like a slice of life anime? Is that the sort of thing? They'd like sit down like class one day, like some sort of filler arc where we're just talking about how good Ebby is, or in Steel and DFM. Like, is that the angle?
Yeah, that was the angle.
Okay, sorry. I missed that.
Sorry, I'll back it up with the whole skit later. Anyway, Baron picked up a DFN because they also got the kill onto Swamp. They're just going to pick up the Drake first. It's no big deal. We're also going to take Drake, guys. Doesn't even matter because they've got that top lane inhib turret unlocked. So at any point, they can opt into shoving Ebby into topside and play that 4-1. Use the pressure of, remember, Utapon, look at his itemization. He's built to kill the squishes of AXIZ as well as raw DPS. So he's going to melt any turrets that he's confronted with. And they've got this wave slow pushing in topside. And it looks like what they're doing here, opting for that 4-1 instead through the mid lane. Gonna sack this top lane turrets and maybe look for a double inhibitor and unlock all these inhib turrets. Got that eventually.
I think they've recognized that top lane tier 1 is not particularly important. Does give over an objective bounty to AXIZ as they start the engage of the fight off onto Heart, but he's able to flash out just in time. Toltu chasing deep into the backline to try and find a kill, but won't be able to get it. And now that means that DFM could clean up the rest of the fight. Massive face breaker, pulling them all into the death chamber. Utapon gets a reset. Gale forces forwards. And DFM clean up what will be the final team fight of the game. Yes, Ebby died as he was apprehending them into his team to get the kills, but he's not going to mind. 24 kills on the board, 24 minutes on the clock. Not 24 games won, but DFM make it 11.
And I mean, we came in questioning, okay, it's DFM. Oh no, they jumped a game. What are we going to do? Are they going to bring it into the game? No, they don't care. 24-3. They came in very, very much on the aggression here. I think opting into the set support, I love it. And they played around it so good. When we talk about specific picks like it, remember, Set's he's not a big support right now, but they opt specifically into that role, which is just constant. I am going to punch my way through any fight that's confronted with me. Really perfect play coming from DFM to use this early game, and they snowball it through so well. It's just what we expected from them, but I'm still so happy about this performance.
Do you know what? As soon as I saw Harp just rando flash in the middle of lane, I knew it was over. We're going to be going to a short break now to discuss that game. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Hello, we are back once again, and well, what a game to kick it off at bringing you two back onto the desk. DFM, well, just doing DFM things, to be honest. But let's get into the breakdown a little bit. Darius picked top. That's normally a bit of a Ray Farky one. Oak, what's your thoughts on this?
It's the Ray Farky angle. It's that I'm going to blind Darius and make it work anyway. And I think, we've learned two things as well. So you can blind Darius. Toltu has a Fiora, apparently. Well,
Oh, come on, Oak. Come on, Oak. He very nearly
close.
solo killed Emmy. Okay.
The problem is that matchup was very snowbally, and we talked about this comp wanting to play it slow, and they didn't. He tried to find that 1v1, and then that matchup started snowballing very quickly, and it really played into DFM's hands because then suddenly they don't need to worry about this top lane matchup, and they get to rotate to bot side. And there was a certain player there who has been playing a lot of enchanters this split. He pulled out something new. I don't know if you guys saw it. Little 1-2.
I saw a little 1-2, a little bit of some.
Yeah, it did remind me of David Hay in his prime. It was pretty good. I think that it was a good pick for them. I like the aggression. I think the DFM came to win, and we talked about it. We said they lost last. I was going to say yesterday, but it wasn't yesterday. They lost last game day 11, and they came back to prove that, you know what, we're not defeatable. You know, we are going to come back. We are going to show that we are the strongest, and it looked pretty good. And I want to talk about their precision, right? Because the moment for me where it was kind of GG, but it was also just a beautiful play to watch was that tower dive. And
yes,
you got to cast it. Tell me what that was like.
I mean, so obviously DFM stacked the wave up, they rotate their mid and jungle down, and the thing that was so beautiful for me was the tower tanking, knowing that Harp was going to be able to tank an extra tower shot because he could throw up that haymaker. Obviously you get the bonus true damage shield, and then going away you had a couple of members, I think Steel as well, ended up tanking after him. He went down to sort of one hit left. They get a kill on the initial dive, they re-dive with Yaharong tanking, and it's just what we've come to expect from DFM over the course of this split, over the course of the many years that this team has been pulling off coordinated plays like this. A couple minutes later, they come back, they do the exact same play again. It goes even better. And honestly, from that point, it was really off to the races for them.
Yeah, and I think that it's important. We talked about how important the bot lane for AXIZ was going to be, and I think that we have to quote some Jackson 5 here. You know, don't blame it on the moonlight, blame it on the tower dive. Like, they came through, they just smoked it, they did what they had to do, and they put them behind. And I think it's all respect to DFM for finding that out. And one thing that they didn't necessarily learn, which apparently Oak learned at school, was you don't try and steal from Steel. Don't really know what lesson that would have come under, probably maybe, I don't know, esports history. But either way, what do you make of this? Because Steel has been super dominant throughout the season.
Contemporary esports history, okay? It's a very nuanced subgenre, okay? I wouldn't expect you guys to know because you're uneducated, unlike me.
Yeah.
So...
okay, bold statement.
That is, man, do you have a degree? Do you have a degree, Oak? Do you have...
I'm failing my uni course.
Do you have a degree? No, that went too deep. That went too deep.
But not to degree stat check someone. But yeah, anyway.
Degree stat check? Well, that's what DFM did that entire game. It was an educational stat check on how to perform tower dives 101. They watched a Pro Guides video.
DFM here were like their PhDs, and like AXIZ were reading from a MOBA Fire guide from season 3. Like I don't know, man. Like
guys, where's Deathfire Grasp in the? I can't find Deathfire Grasp, guys.
The icons have all changed. They all messed them up. But either way, I think DFM coming through very dominant. It is what we predicted. Yeah. AXIZ not picking up the win maybe causes for some problems for them now because they are sitting on that number 6 spot. But the Hawks have started to make a bit of a run for it. So do AXIZ have to be a little bit worried? Is there potential threat for them to lose this spot?
I'm really excited for this match because I think SoftBank Orgs are slowly but surely. I feel like they've been ramping up in games. Remember that they're currently positive in their last 5 games. I want that noted down. And when you combine that with Sengoku, bless my heart, the poetry has been in motion, and right now the poetry's been very sad. They have been falling off slightly, ever so slightly. I want to note before this game, today's games though, whilst they have been falling off, Jet hit top 100 KR today, so. This is the upswing again. They're going to come back.
Ooh.
The most exciting team in the LJL, and they're going to bring it back in for today's games. I'm ready.
Well, it was unfortunate for AXIZ. I feel like Elden Ring really inspired DFM. They decided to become one of the bosses. And well, if you've played it, I know Oak's played it. That game is just rough. You know,
I'm playing it right now.
Rough. Well, that's a little bit interesting, but we are going to go to a break, so maybe you can get a boss in cheekily, but we are going to be coming back ready for the next one. It's going to be Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks taking on Sengoku.